What's up, ballers? Jacob here with AllDriveNoDrop, and we're talking about the 3 Monarchs that just came out from 11Six24. We have the Jelly Bean, we have the Control, which is the Kevlar, and we have the All Court. So I've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of comments. There's been a lot of anticipation about these. We also have a giveaway. Winner gets to pick their choice of any of these 3. So subscribe now if you want to enter that, and stick around to the end to get all the details. But I really enjoy these wide body paddles. I think each of them has a place for someone, and I think they fit in great into the market. And also the Jelly Bean might be the best paddle under 100 now, especially for the person looking for their first premium paddle, or someone that's just balling on a budget, because I was balling out with the Jelly Bean, I'll tell you that. So we're going to get into what all these paddles are. I'm going to break down their specs real quick. We got 3 of them, so we're going to go a little fast through those specs. I don't want to bore you with all the specs, but you can always feel free to pause the screen and check it out. And we'll get into a gameplay, and then I'll kind of break down how these paddles fit against some top competitors in the wide body standard market. So let's jump into those specs. All right, let's start off with the Jelly Bean, which is a unibody with perimeter edge foam. Some call this Gen 1.5. It's just not thermoformed, so it's going to be a lot softer than most thermoformed paddles. It's a wide body. It has a carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber layup here, which gives you a little extra pop and power when you activate that fiberglass layer. Very nice dimensions, and a 16mm core. Mine came in at 8.1 ounces, 5.75 inch handle. I'll show how the handle kind of stacks up compared to the Apollo and the Mach 2 Forzas, and you can judge whether that's a true 5.75, but still plenty of room for two-handed backhands on there. Grip circumference at 4.125, 110 swing weight, twist weight of 7.35, and a 6-month warranty. So the Monarch All Core also has the same combination for the facing, the carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber, and this one is thermoform. So that's the main difference between this All Core and the Jelly Bean, and then a slightly lower twist weight on mine, but the same weight, same swing weight. Now, the Monarch Control is also a thermoform unibody with perimeter edge foam, wide body paddle, same dimensions and everything. The main difference here is you have the 100% Kevlar facing, and this one is actually not as soft as you would think for a Kevlar. Still not really stiff, but it's not as soft as the Jelly Bean as you would think it would be. So let's jump into my gameplay thoughts, and then we'll kind of talk about how these paddles compare to other wide bodies on the market. So let's start with the Jelly Bean, and I'm kind of talking about the Control too, because they play very similarly. It's just the main difference is the Control is going to be stiffer than the Jelly Bean. It's not like super stiff, but the Jelly Bean's pretty soft, not as soft as the Mach 2 Forza, 16mm, but not. The Control is just a little stiffer. So it just depends kind of how you feel, but they both play very similar. So the Jelly Bean has a great sweet spot, really big sweet spot, gets great spin. This is a Control paddle that has a little bit of offense. So the resets and blocks are amazing with this paddle. It's not a pillow, but it's, you know, almost there. It just feels great on those resets and blocks. Probably one of the best under, actually, you know what, let's just go with best under 100 on those resets and blocks. It just feels really, really good, and it's very consistent. It does what you want it to do in that soft game. The dinks, the drops, they feel super smooth, and I really enjoyed it. So basically, I'm thinking about this like a Mach 2 Forza 16mm, but with more offense, more power, more pop. So if you like that, but you want a little bit more offensive capability, I think you're gonna love the Jelly Bean. So when we talk about the Control version, the 100% Kevlar, it's not as soft as the Jelly Bean, and the stats are very similar, and the play feels very similar. The power, the pop, the resets and blocks are really good. I mean, both are just amazing with those rolls and the manipulation you can do with the ball with the lower swing weight, and just how much, you know, it feels like the ball stays on the paddle. So everything feels good. It just, those serves and drives, you know, they're not going to have the most power in the world, but some people like that. You can swing more freely. You have room to add weight to get that power. It's definitely not going to be a power paddle, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with those Control and Jelly Beans. Is just like, I'd rather play with the Jelly Bean, and the Jelly Bean's cheaper, so it's just a no-brainer which one I would recommend in this situation. All of that, all the good stuff, touch shots, you still have enough power there with the. So the good thing about the Jelly Bean and the Control is they both have good enough pop and good enough power that it's not feeling like, hey, I have just pure control paddle and I have no offensive game with it. And with that stability and great sweet spot, firefights still feel pretty good. I was aiming my speed ups very well. That's the one thing I do like about these wide bodies that are a little bit more control oriented. I feel like I can place my speed ups a lot better than stuff that's, you know, really poppy. It's just like I'm picking my spots, and honestly, sometimes hitting those spots is more important than how fast the ball's going when you hit those spots. Because when we're talking about this pop and these speed ups, the speed difference is sometimes not that great, especially when you're the one initiating that firefight. But anyway, let's talk about the all court now. Those are both great control-oriented wide bodies that offer a little bit of offensive firepower. So they did a great job changing the name to all court because this really does play like an all court paddle. A great sweet spot as well. If you like the feel of the Huarache X CFC, then I think you're going to like this. It's a little softer, a little bit more control, bigger sweet spot, or wider sweet spot, I should say. And it has, so basically it has less pop than like a Mach 2 Forza 14 millimeter, but just a little bit less, but a lot more, like a lot more power. And it just feels, and it's not too stiff and it's not too soft. It's kind of in the middle. I really enjoy the fiberglass layer like they do on the Shapeshifter, they do on the Huarache X. I like this fiberglass carbon fiber layup that they're using. It feels really good. It feels like you can access the power when you want it, but you can soften up when you need to hit those resets and blocks. It's really good. So I think this paddle is going to slot in pretty nicely, and we'll talk about that in the paddle comparison. But drives, serves, felt really good. So if you're like, oh, I like what you're saying kind of about like the other paddles, but I want more power, then this is going to be the one that you're going to want. It has good pop and power combo and still lets you have a good soft game. I didn't have a problem dinking. I didn't have a problem with my drops. Everything felt good and consistent. I was placing the ball where I wanted to place it. And you have room with that 110 swing weight to add weight if you want more power. And you don't need any more stability with all these paddles. They're just very stable, very good. Longer handle on these for two-handed backhands feels excellent. Let's go jump into the comparison now, and we'll talk about how these perform against other paddles in the market. Okay, so let's talk about how these break down compared to some of the most popular wide body paddles right now. So the Monarch All Court ended up being my most powerful of this grouping right here, with the Apollo taking up the rear. It just isn't the most powerful paddle. And then you have the Monarch Control down there towards the bottom. And then the Jelly Bean actually beat out the Mach 2 Forza 16 millimeter just barely. And just keep in mind, these numbers are just kind of more of like a general guide to things, because it's just the testing can have variance. So this is just kind of a general overview to help you find how these stack up against each other. But I think that the Monarch All Court definitely is the most powerful of this bunch. So I think it fits a great category where it's not extremely poppy, but it has enough pop and it has that power. So if you were looking at getting like the Fat Boy and you wanted less pop and more power, then this would be a great alternative. And then if you were looking, maybe you wanted something just in between, I think the Jelly Bean kind of fits that spot where it's like, it's a control paddle, but it's pretty close to being all court. So, it just depends on what you're looking for. Everything gets great spin on this list. I wouldn't worry about the spin difference. I don't think you'll notice it. And then this is me just picking softest to stiffest, with the Mach 2 Forza 16mm still being the softest, and then going the Jelly Bean, Monarch Control, Apollo, Monarch All Court, Fat Boy. So if you're looking for something that's stiff, or you're looking for something that's soft, or something in between, I hope that list can help you out. And now let's take a look at the handle length, because I think the handle length, is longer than the Mach 2. So as you can see, here's the Monarch All Court, and then we put the Mach 2 Forza right next to it. So you have a longer handle length wrapped up with the All Court, but you have more, you have less of a, but you still have room right here on the Mach 2 Forza to wrap up. So at the end of the day, both have plenty of room for two-handed backhands as far as Apollo. So if you were like, I don't have enough room on the Apollo, then you'll like that, and it has more room than the Fat Boy. With all those comparisons, let's jump into the conclusion. I'll wrap up my final thoughts and if I recommend these paddles or not. So for my conclusion, I do think that 11Six24 has nailed these paddles. I think they brought some great wide bodies to the market. They already brought the great elongated, and I think with these longer handle wide bodies, people do have preferences. It seems people are enjoying the longer handle wide bodies, and for some like shorter handles, but that's good to have options out there. Now the all court is going to probably be the most popular. I don't know. I think the all court is going to be the most popular amongst higher level players just because they want more offense out of their paddle. So I think that this is going to be the most popular one. And at coming in at, what is it, $129.99 after the code AllDriveNoDrop. I mean, it's an amazing value as well. And I definitely am going to give this more run in competitive settings just because it performs very well. I was on a hybrid and elongated kick, but I mean, there's just so many good wide bodies I've been testing lately too, and I see the pros and cons, and I still not. And I do like the wide bodies, especially for firefights. If I'm looking to just, you know, get into it that day, the wide bodies are coming out, and we're gonna get some firefights going. So all court, recommend it if you're looking for a wide body that is, of course, all court, but has great offensive power, great stability, and has a longer handle for two-handed backhands, or just you like to whip that forehand roll or drive. So that's excellent. Now the Jelly Bean is going to be, I think, my new recommendation when someone's like, I want a paddle under 100 for my first premium paddle. I think I'm just going to say get the Jelly Bean because it's better than the Vatic Prism Flash, in my opinion, for new players or intermediate players. It has a bigger sweet spot. It just feels better for me than the Vatic Prism Flash. I felt like I had better control, and then it has more power than the Vatic Prism Flash by far. That fiberglass layer really helps, and I think that it's just as easy to control in this wide body shape. So this is going to be my new recommendation for people that want a paddle under 100 at $90. This is great. Great job on the Jelly Bean. Highly recommend this one. And then I'll wrap up with the control. I think that this one, the problem is 11Six24 made two great other paddles in the wide body shape, and I think that the control is just going to kind of get lost in the sauce. It's the most expensive of the three, and it's my least favorite, but it's still really good. But they made two other ones that are better that cost less, so I think they just, you know, so who would this be better for? Someone that likes what I was saying about the Jelly Bean but wants something that feels a little stiffer, or they just like the Kevlar in general. It's not as soft as like some of the other Kevlar paddles out there. It's not as stiff, but you know, I think I would just go the Jelly Bean at the cheaper price, but this is still a really good paddle as well. It feels very similar to the Jelly Bean in all the performance, just not the feel. With all that said, great job from 11Six24. These Monarchs are killer. I really enjoy playing with them. If you want to go get yourself a Monarch, you can go click my link in the description. Help support the channel. And I appreciate everyone. If you want to enter the giveaway, follow the instructions on the screen. And feel free to drop me any comments. I love hearing from everyone. I get a lot of great comments. Love hearing the feedback on how your games are going. I always appreciate it. And then, as always, go play some pickleball.